Thank you very much. Today we're going to talk here about gaming. We have, I hope, Riccardo, Zacconi in the audience or coming up on stage. We have Riccardo here. Welcome, Riccardo. We have Julien Cordonnier from Facebook, who is in charge of gaming partnerships. Jens Begemann from Wooga, the founder of Wooga, which is, please have a seat, equivalent to sort of a Zynga of Europe, 30 million users per month.
This microphone, now it's working, yeah. So we have 35 million active users who played our games in the last months.
And Riccardo, King has how many active users?
We have...
Wait a second.
Yep. We have 5.8 million active players per day.
Right.
So...
And you started on Facebook or before Facebook or along with Facebook?
We started back in 2003, but we launched on Facebook in April. And we have now the largest casual social game on Facebook, above Bejeweled. And I think we are pretty similar in size with Wooga. I mean, start a bit later.
So, Julien, how key is gaming right now to Facebook in Europe?
So gaming is really key because that's the one vertical that was the first to be disrupted by social. So because from 2004 to 2007, Facebook was just a social network, and you could only use applications that were built by Facebook employees, like photos, calendar, events. And in 2007, Mark Zuckerberg launched the Facebook platform, which allowed independent developers to build new applications on Facebook. And he said something when we launched the platform, he said something like that one day there would be companies whose only application would be a product that lives within Facebook. And actually, the first companies to jump on that opportunity and to leverage the social graph and distribute and monetize over the social graph were the gaming companies. So, I mean, no other platform has created that much value that fast. And the gaming companies, you know, everybody talks about Zynga, but Wooga and King.com are as impressive as Zynga, are really leveraging the platform. And the reason why we like them is that they are both very successful platform partners. They take the best of the Facebook platform to create great games that you can play with your friends, games that people love because, I mean, 30 million people play their games every month. And so they create a great experience on Facebook or out of Facebook on mobile. And so they are both great platform partners and also great clients of Facebook.
And has gaming been a driver in adoption of Facebook in any places in Europe in the way that...
Definitely. I mean, there are some countries where new Facebook users, when they open a Facebook account, a minute after that, they install a game. So there are some countries where Facebook is just a gaming platform. And actually, Facebook is the largest gaming platform in the world. I think we have something like 300 million users. Gamers, so it means that there are more people playing games on Facebook than people playing games on the Xbox, the PlayStation, the Wii, Game Boy, you name it. And so yeah, Facebook is a gaming platform and people love to play games on Facebook, and that's one of the reasons why people come on Facebook to play games with their friends or against their friends. It has been a huge driver of adoption for us, and what makes the Facebook platform successful is the quality of the number of games, just like the one Wooga and King.com are doing.
Jens, with Wooga, you began on the Facebook platform. Were you a Facebook company first or a gaming company first?
Yeah, so I started Wooga in 2009 with this belief that we should bring games to everyone, because the games industry over the last few decades has really specialized in creating games for gamers. So people who see playing games as their hobby, mostly young males between 15 and 30 years old. And I said, well, playing is a core human desire. How can I create games that really appeal to everyone, to all of the rest of the population? And I started the company, and while I started the company and looked at what kind of games I would do and how I would make them accessible, it became clear to me that they should be social. And that's when I, during the development of our first game, kind of looked at Facebook, and we built the first game immediately for Facebook in 2009.
And what was the experience in terms of the growth or the adoption? Was it what you'd expected?
No, it was far above. So, in fact, we have a picture in our office where we kind of took track of the user growth in the first few months. And that chart was designed in a way that it could work up to 1 million users, right? So our goal was to have 1 million users after the first 6 months. And yeah, we put it on our office wall, and after a few weeks we had to put a chart above it and above it to extend it. And when we were at 6 million users, we ran out of, I mean, we're in an old factory in Berlin, and the walls are really almost 5 meters high. But at 6 million users, we ran out of wall.
So did you get a new building, or?
We have now a huge plasma screen, which is much more flexible because you can display any number on it that you want.
Talk about the social component of the games. Would some of these games have worked if they didn't have the social component?
We would have to have designed them completely differently. So when we design a game, we think of them being social right from the beginning. And the way they wouldn't work without social. So we design them to be social from day one. You play with your friends or against your friends. And for example, we have a game called Diamond Dash, which is a top 10 Facebook game, over 11 million active users. We launched it yesterday on mobile. And that game would not work if you couldn't play with your friends, because it would just not be so much fun if you couldn't compete with your friends in a tournament.
Riccardo, with your experience moving from, what were the kind of games you were in before you moved into the Facebook games?
We developed about 160 games over the 8 years, which were casual games, where you would play these casual games with other people. But since we were not having with these games were not developed for Facebook, we developed our own community, our own tools.
And each game would have a separate community, or would they be the community?
We would have it's a platform, and on this platform you would basically play the games on one community. So what we have now done or what we are currently doing, we're actually bringing these games one by one to Facebook, but substituting our community with Facebook. And we're basically now bringing games which are proven to Facebook. And this is why I think I'm very excited actually about what the team has managed to do, because we are introducing repeatability and reducing the risk of failure of the next game to zero, because we're launching games which are proven in our 160 games portfolio onto Facebook. This is how we can manage to become basically from zero now the 4th largest games developer on Facebook.
And what is the business model? Is add-ons cost money?
The business model is a combination of if you want to continue playing in the game in a story mode, you have to buy additional lives. If you don't want to buy additional lives, you have to come back tomorrow, or you have to invite friends, then you receive new lives, and advertising.
And your business model is similar?
Yeah, we don't do advertising, maybe at some point in the future, but today we don't. We focus entirely on selling virtual goods, and that works very well. And usually the kind of goods that work best are things that give you some advantage in gameplay, or things where you would have to wait or pay now. So also for casual gamers, time is money, like for an investment banker. It doesn't really differ.
What's interesting, with the advertising model, how does that work? What are the sort of examples?
Well, the examples are that instead of having to buy a game, you can instead watch, for example, a video ad. So it's always advertising which is not intrusive. That's important.
Do you do it in-game advertising, sort of as traditional games might?
We have done it we are doing it on the web. We are now in the process of studying different additional formats. This is one of the formats we are also planning to do. But we haven't done it yet on Facebook.
Okay. Mobile, Julien, Facebook, hugely popular mobile app. How much gaming takes place across the mobile app, or can you even do gaming off of the mobile app?
So there are two things. There are applications like Diamond Dash that was released yesterday on iOS, which is a Facebook application. I mean, it's an application that has been built on the Facebook platform. It's not on Facebook.com, but it's still a Facebook application, I mean, from my point of view. And so, I mean, anybody can do that right now. You can use Facebook Connect on any mobile application and get social distribution through the Facebook native iOS application.
So I'm downloading a separate app, but it's using Facebook Connect to have the identity so that I can play one of their games on my mobile and then come back onto the Facebook platform and still be at the same level or...
And more importantly, you will be able to discover the game on the Facebook application through the bookmarks and through the requests that you get from your friends. So that's what made the success of social gaming companies, the process of social discovery, because you see a friend playing something, a game, and then his friends will start playing it, his friends and the friends of his friends, and you end up like King or Wooga with 20 million plus players. But so that's for the native part. But 6 weeks ago, we released something very, very important for the company, which is the Facebook platform for mobile, which allows any HTML5 developer to develop one application once in HTML5 and run it on all the Facebook mobile applications, m.facebook.com in HTML5. So that's a big bet that the company is doing, and we believe that most of the games we'll be playing in a few years will be HTML5 on top of the Facebook HTML5 platform on mobile and on every device.
So does that mean that I will have to download that separate app still, or no longer necessary?
No, it will be all in the browser, everything in the browser, everything in the Facebook application. And that's a big bet, and Wooga was actually one of the first companies in the world to use that new technology.
What do you think the impact of that will be?
Yeah, so we worked very closely with Facebook over the course of a few months to create that. So this game is called Magic Land. It's developed in HTML5, and you just touch it in the Facebook app or in any other Facebook mobile channel, and it just starts and it works. And it's quite similar to a native app. It's not exactly the same level, but it's quite similar. So I've shown it to many people who said, oh, wow, that's a native app. That's nice. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. Why is that? And I said, well, it's running in the browser. It's HTML5, right? So my view on this is native apps for Android and for iOS, that's a big business today. And HTML5 is the future, and we do both, right? So Diamond Dash is a native app for iOS, Magic Land is an HTML5 game, and I believe going forward, if we really look 1 or 2 years ahead, HTML5 will be the default way how you create mobile apps. It's not yet there, but it's coming sooner than many people think.
Riccardo, any views on HTML5?
Yep. I think that, yes, we have a game which is ready. It's going to be released in January in HTML5. I think HTML5 works today for specific typologies of games, does not work for all games. So games where you have more movement, for example, are more difficult to represent. But for other categories of games, it works actually quite fine. This is what we have seen, and I look forward to launch it soon.
But you have to see that the reason, I mean, the incentive to use HTML5 to build games is to enjoy the social discovery on mobile, which is something you didn't have before, and which is what made the gaming companies, I mean the social gaming companies successful. And if you look at the history of software development, back in the days, 80s, 90s, people were building native applications, client applications, but there was no social discovery process. There was no marketplace, and so for a gaming company, you had to get deals with Best Buy, with Office Depot. I mean, it was super difficult to reach 20 million people every month. Then came the iPhone, which changed the world because suddenly a lot of people had the same device and the same marketplace in the pocket. But if you don't make it into the top 10, it's going to be very hard for you. Angry Birds did that, but there aren't that many Angry Birds in the world. And Facebook came in 2007 with a social discovery approach and a social platform. And so you start with one person, you end up with 20 million every month. And so that distribution and that level of monetization, look at Zynga, the numbers, look at these guys' numbers, are very, very impressive. And so the incentive to use HTML5 is to enjoy that same level of distribution and monetization that did not exist on mobile before.
I'd love to get some questions from the audience. If there are anybody have any questions for these guys on gaming, social, mobile, or local. If anybody can think of any local questions, I'd love that because I've been trying to think of any local questions. Identify yourself.
Dmitry, Moscow Socialist. Our company called Socialist, and what we do, we are making social media advertising, and we are making integrations in social games. It's a pretty small market. We paid to the developers about $3 million this year, but what we're interested in, that we want our partners to move to iPads, to mobile, to HTML5, and we want to know how much does it cost to convert the existing game on Flash to HTML5? Is it harder than make a new one, or it's a process that we can just invest in them and make them converted to HTML5 and run on iPads? Because our advertisers, they love iPads. They know that people with iPads got money.
Okay. So, is it an easy process? Maybe Jens or Riccardo?
Maybe I can start. So for the two games we created, so Diamond Dash, it's a big game with Flash, and we made it to an iOS version. And I can tell you the first version of that game was running after 2 weeks. And after that, we spent roughly 5 months of polishing to make it perfect, right? And when you play it, you don't notice it immediately. But there's really this polishing, in my view, is super, super important, even if it's just about very small little details like timing or sounds or usability or whatever. That's so important to make it successful. So, and I believe if we would have taken the Flash game and converted it to mobile one-on-one, it would not be a success. And for HTML5, we had lots of technology challenges to solve. So it took us really, I don't know, 4 months to just get the basic technology things working, to make sure that the game is actually running on an iPad or iPhone. But after we had solved that, it was also again about creating the game. But there also it's about, in my belief, if you want to be successful on mobile and on the iPad, it's the same if you want to be successful on Flash, on Facebook.com. You have to have lots of attention to detail, and you have to create really good games. And you can see that, for example, with King.com, with Bubble Witch Saga, it's the really, really good games. They stick out and they are successful, and therefore I think if your approach is you take something, you convert it quickly, it will not be successful.
So you need to take advantage of what HTML5 offers rather than just trying to make a quick over conversion.
And also touch changes a lot of things, right? Games on Facebook are made for the mouse. For touch, you have to change the interface. Screen size is different. Audience spans are different. On Facebook, people maybe play for 20 minutes per session. On the iPhone, it's more like 5 minutes. On the iPad, it's more like 10 minutes. And if you build the game in such a way to know, I'm building for touch, 3.5-inch, 5-minute playtime session, take all of that into account and build it. Otherwise, I believe at least, it will not be a success.
Do you have many games that go across all 3 platforms?
We have just started with that.
And it's the same game or different game? Or?
So Diamond Dash is, you compete in the same tournament, right? But the game is optimized for mobile, and we've tweaked it in such a way that kind of you have no advantage no matter which device you use, right? So the game is adapted, but if you play against your friends, it's tweaked in such a way that the scores are comparable. So that's our approach, to take these big brands and these properties where we have millions of users and to make them in such a way that it works seamless across devices.
Do we have any more questions in the audience?
My name is Bülent. I'm from Turkey and represent Turkcell, which is the 3rd biggest mobile operator in Europe. I wonder, since you are trying to move to a mobile place from social, do you have some concrete plans or intention to cooperate with mobile operators, especially for Android penetration?
Riccardo, do you want to answer first, or me, or okay, for me. Okay, so we are just starting. So 2012 will be very important for us, and mobile will be our biggest challenge and also opportunity for 2012. And we have now created an HTML5 game and an iOS game. And Android is very interesting, but we have nothing today there, right? So we're looking at that very, of course. And for iOS, I think it's Apple is more the channel, and for Android, obviously there are multiple channels. It's Google and the operators and a few others. And I think we will decide that once we have a product there, and we don't yet, because we've decided to first get it really perfectly right for iOS and to get it really good on HTML5.
If I can give my view, sorry, just to integrate, all of our games will be ported on iOS and Android. We launched that game on iOS and Android connected to Facebook about 6 months ago to start learning. So are we going to work with operators? If there are opportunities, definitely.
Hi, Hugo from Portugal. I'd like to understand if you're sticking to having the games in Facebook, within Facebook, as a Facebook application, if you're not afraid of being too dependent on Facebook, and why don't you do just the website integrated with Facebook Connect and all the APIs? And what's your thoughts on that and being so dependent on Facebook? Thank you.
Excellent question. So is there a risk of the Facebook platform? Sorry, Julien.
If I can say, Mario, actually we're coming from the opposite way. Our business is started outside of Facebook, and we generate a lot of revenues outside of Facebook, so we're not dependent on Facebook. But to give you an example of the magnitude of what happened over the last year, in exactly a year ago, in December of last year, we had about 300 million games played on our platform per month. Now we have about 1.4 billion games played per month.
Yeah. So my take on that is that I think Facebook is a great platform, and we have great benefits of being on Facebook. And at the same time, Facebook has great benefits of having people like Riccardo or us or other companies on the platform. I mean, you heard Julien talking about how many users go to Facebook to play games, and while doing that, they also do other things. And I think really it's a great benefit where we profit a lot and Facebook profits a lot, and we really enjoy the partnerships. It's an amazing partnership that we're having. And I think also that the terms and conditions are really good, because the platform is free, distribution is free, support is free, everything is free, and only if you are successful, you pay 30% tax. So compare that to other game platforms. Let's say you're developing for the PlayStation or for the Xbox. You have lots of upfront investment, and you need to build a very strong relationship, and you need this license, and please, I would like to be on your platform, and can you please allow me, etc. And before you have even done anything, you have large costs. And here, anybody in the world can just write something, publish it. You don't have to have business development relationship with Facebook. You just put it live. And when it works, you give 30% of your revenues to Facebook, and that is basically for the payment service and for everything else, like the free distribution. So overall, I believe it's a really good partnership where they benefit, we benefit, and therefore I can encourage everybody to be on the platform.
Yeah, and if I may give my own take on that.
Are you for or anti-Facebook, Julien?
I'm pretty pro. But you know, we have a CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, who believes that the opportunity for Facebook is to be a platform and let independent developers build on it, whatever they want to build. And so we're never going to, as opposed to our competitors, we're never going to invest in gaming companies, we're never going to buy gaming companies, and we're never going to make games ourselves. And this is not something that you see on other platforms. So it's pretty neutral. We don't want to be kingmakers, and we let the best companies win. And you know, when we see Bubble Witch Saga from King.com that nobody played on Facebook 2 months ago, becoming the first casual game on Facebook with how many? 3.5 million people playing that game every day. It was 0 2 months ago, it's 3.5 million every day. There are people at Facebook who are celebrating that. When Wooga launches a game, a very popular Facebook game on iOS with Facebook Connect, there is a team of people at Facebook celebrating that because we want our partners to be successful. And so we have a very good relationship because, as you said, when they make 10, we make 3. So we want these guys to make 1 million, 10 billion, 100 billion. That's a very good business partnership.
Any other questions? Anybody out there making any Facebook games? HTML5 coders?
I actually have a question for Jens and Riccardo, because you have two very different approaches. I mean, you take all the developers in the world that you like and you bring them to Berlin. And Riccardo, you open offices all across the world, I mean Europe, to go and find the local talents where they are. So why do you believe that your approach is the right one?
Do you want to start? Should I start?
I'm happy to start, but so let's put it this way. If I could, I would put everyone under one roof in a building which has no floors, or everyone is on one floor, and this makes it very, very easy. So this is my ideal world. We started the company in Stockholm. We have amazingly talented people. I think we have absolute stars. But we need to have access to a wider talent pool. This is why we opened up an office in Romania for mobile. We opened up an office in Poland, an additional office in Poland for social, where we opened up another office in Malmö for social, in the south of Sweden, because there we have access to other talented people from other universities, plus the talent pool in Denmark. And at the base of it, it's a management, it's not easy from a management perspective. So what we did is we built a very, very strong platform so that everyone is building on the same platform. And the additional code which had to be programmed for developing the last game we launched was 1% additional code. And this is basically the basis for being able to do that. So,
yeah, so to me, when founding Wooga, it was clear to me that culture and the way we operate will be fundamental to our success. And the way we are organized is that each game is created by a separate team. So this team has engineers and artists and product managers and analysts all sitting together in one room and working on this game. But at the same time, we foster exchange a lot, right? So we try, if we learn something, we try to bring that to other people. And I'm convinced that that best works face to face. And therefore, we have now 120 people from far over 20 nations, and they're all together in one office, on one floor, so that when you have something that you want to discuss, you just bring everybody together and a very, very open exchange. And we grow at the moment at 2 new employees per week, and we have decided to base everything in Berlin to keep this amazing company culture. At least I believe it's amazing. Others have to judge. And half of our new employees move from other countries to Berlin. So I think that also has to do with the fact that Berlin is a quite attractive city at the moment. But we hire from everywhere around the world, and then we give people, I think, a lot of incentive and a lot of perspective and lots of opportunities what they can create, and therefore I think we're able to bring many people to Berlin and to work in this very international company. So that's our culture.
Game-centric in a single locale.
Yeah.
In a single location. And do you have the game-centric approach also, where you have a team around a game, or is it a different process?
We have basically every game is a separate team hub. And then we have a completely separate team, which is called Plataforma, which works on the infrastructure, on the base. And so every game, you have to imagine, is built in stacks. There is one front part, which is separate for each game, which has the gameplay, the single game, and the design. But then all the rest, all the functionality and the scalability is all on one Plataforma. And this enables us to work across several locations and to scale in this way.
Right. And you're saying the several locations is really a question of talent, trying to find the right talent. Yeah. That's the main driver. Yeah. Whereas Jens is saying Berlin is enough of a... Do you have an office in Berlin?
No, we have an office in Hamburg.
Okay.
But it's a different office. It's a BizDev and ad sales office.
Okay, all right. With the next generation, what is the next generation of social game going to be for you on Facebook or otherwise?
So for me, it's really the biggest trend of 2012 is mobile. So we have mobile. We have social games on Facebook.com, and today we have single-player games on mobile. And bringing that together and creating social mobile games, which so far hasn't really been done. I mean, name me, there are not a lot of mobile games where you really play with your real friends. Almost nothing out there, right? And I think that's the biggest trend for 2012, and that's what we're working on.
Riccardo.
First of all, I have to say it's a pleasure to be here in this panel with Jens, because we are both developing casual social games. And if you ask me what is the next generation of games, I think we are working now on the next generation of social games, because I think that there are very few genres of games which can be played across any platform, be it on a PC, on an iPad, and on a mobile. And I think that this is going to be absolutely essential. The new feature changes which Julien was talking about before, I think are going to change the way how games are played on mobile. So I think we are in the right segment.
Julien, seen from your perspective, the next generation of...
I mean, on our side, I mean, everywhere I see a successful game, be it online, be it on the Xbox, or, you know, physical games, I see a social game on Facebook. So we spend a lot of time talking to companies who are not on Facebook yet to build games on Facebook. So there's a German company actually called Ravensburger. Everybody knows Ravensburger, you know, the puzzle, memento kind of games. And so they are bringing their games that have been developed developed 50 years ago, 40 years ago. They are bringing these old games on Facebook. So every time I see a good game, I see a social game on Facebook. But it's very hard, and the guys at King.com know how to do that, to use an existing game and to make it social and to reach millions of people. But that's what we try to do with the local gaming ecosystem. And we think about Minecraft. I want to see Minecraft on Facebook. I don't know if it's going to happen. Or Cut the Rope. It's a very popular game on mobile. I want to see that on Facebook, or all the games you used to play in the 80s on your Amstrad or on your Commodore computer. These games should be on Facebook. I mean, Tetris, it's one of the most popular games on Facebook still today.
So, sorry, which is?
Tetris.
Tetris.
I mean, the Tetris IP has been monetized many times, and it's still being monetized every day on Facebook. So
for you, it's almost going back to the future.
No, it's doing what these guys are doing, making sure that very interesting and casual games can meet millions and millions of people, but also I see opportunities for people who have great IP from the 80s, from the 90s, and bring these games on Facebook. But making it social, just like these guys know how to do, is very, very difficult. So it's not going to be an easy win for everybody.
Excellent.
If I can only add one thing, I think that games is something which depends from stars. So there will be a lot more coming, and it will depend from new stars. Just one example, Minecraft was developed actually by one of our former developers. And so if some things like this come, it's going to be very different.
Excellent. Okay, round of applause, please, for our panel on social gaming. We got social, mobile. We did not get local in there, though Jens mentioned it for the next generation. So we almost covered every one of the 3 topics of this conference here. So thank you very much.